The murder of 12 people that worked for Charlie Hebdo, a satirical French magazine, by radical Islamists. Like I said, let's call it what they are. A lot of people don't want to call it what they are. And that is where human nature is interestingly on display. A lot of people don't want to call a spade, and we'll get into that. But right now, I guess this has something to do with the whole idea of being honest and pulling out weeds when you see them. You can't ignore the weeds. You got to admit that they're there. Pull them out. Do something with your life. Let your freaking garden grow. I see so many people working out. So many people working out or talking about working out because it's a new year. New year, new me. Gonna get ripped, toned, shredded, all the above. And it was funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine who happens to be a personal trainer. And I was like, I hear people that have the same goals, but they have completely different plans. Like a lot of people are going, I'm not going to eat any carbs, just lots of protein, and I'm going to lift lots of weights. Where I know some people that I'm like, I'm going to eat only fibrous carbs and do lots of high-impact cardio. I was like, it's interesting. Those two approaches are totally different. Like one's the opposite of the other. Which one works? He's like, they both work. And he's like, they're not the opposite of the other. One guy has a high-carb, high cardio plan. The other person has a low-carb, high-intensity weight training plan. The opposite of either one of those things is not having a plan. Not having an idea of what you're going to do. Knowing that you want to get somewhere, but not figuring out a way to get there. There's lots of ways to skin a cat. There's lots of ways to become a ripped-toned super athlete. There's lots of ways to recognize the problems in your life and in the world and do something about them. But you can't do something about them until you recognize them and make a plan. There are risks and costs to a program of action, but they are far less than the long-range risks and costs of comfortable inaction. John F. Kennedy.
This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio. Come on, let's go. Say ho, ho, say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, can you hear this, Funkhauser? Hold on. Wait for it.
I hear nothing.
Oh, yeah. There we go. You know what this is? You ever heard this before?
Is it the Main Street Electrical Parade?
It is not the Main Street Electrical Parade. It's a famous classical musician called Wendy Carlos. And it's off of an album called Switched on Bach, which we can use because, well, Bach's in the public domain now. It's pretty cool, right? Anyways, what's interesting about this is the fact that, oh man, it is one of the biggest selling classical albums of all time. When the Mini Moog synthesizer first became a thing, Wendy Carlos recorded a whole album of Bach music, and it won multiple Grammys. It sold millions of copies, and it launched this woman's career into something that was really, really kind of very, very impressive. I mean, as if winning 3 Grammys wasn't enough. I mean, Wendy Carlos in general, very, very impressive person. Very impressive person. Met Dr. Robert Moog back in 1963 at an Audio Engineering Society show, and that's where the idea for this album was born. But she was a child prodigy to begin with, and once this sort of launched her into what she was doing, she did the soundtrack to A Clockwork Orange, the legendary film. She did the music to The Shining. She did the music to, she did a Sonic Seasons double album that it broke all sorts of records. She did the music for Tron, the Walt Disney film Tron. She did the music for Beauty and the Beast. She's a very, very, very accomplished person. She even made an album with Weird Al Yankovic. I think that's probably kind of low on her list of accomplishments in life.
I'm getting in the mood for an ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice cream
it's
truck.
Good, right?
Sounds like an ice cream truck coming down there.
But anyways, here, I mean, this is an example of her work, which stands on its own and continues to stand on its own. She's active. I mean, she's much, much older now. how old is she at this stage in the game? She's 75. So she's kind of coming, I suppose, to the end of her life and creative thing, but continues to crank out amazing, amazing work. And has a body of work that stands for itself. And my mom, being a classical musician, she played this to me when I was a kid. And I was like, this is so cool. This is awesome. And it was one of her favorite albums, too, because, I don't know, it was, I guess, sort of back in the day when it came out, it was kind of groundbreaking stuff as far as classical music goes, because classical music and technology are not two things that usually come together, but she managed to do it in a way that really captured the public imagination at the time, and I think gave inspiration to sort of like workaday classical musicians like my mom with this sort of music. And it's just really cool. Like I said, she's accomplished a lot. She's a noteworthy person. She has a long and glittering career. And I remember talking to my mom when I was a kid, like probably about 4 years old, when she was playing it to me, because, oh man, this music works fantastic for kids, because it just engages a part of a child's mind when you hear the synthesizers and then you hear the classical music and you hear the two things come together, and it just, I don't know, it lights up an interesting part of a child's mind. At least that's what I found when I played it to other kids, and it certainly did for me. And I was like, wow, who made this? And she's like, well, this woman, Wendy Carlos. But you know what's interesting about her? I was like, what? And my mom was like, well, she started out as Walter Carlos. I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, changed from a man into a woman back in the day, because she felt more at home being a woman than a man. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that's all I thought about it. The rest of it was just me being taken by the music that she'd created. And it's a stark contrast to the cheap, pandering fame whoring that one Caitlyn Jenner is currently involved in. And we'll discuss why it's a way better thing to go the Wendy Carlos route than the former Olympians turned fame whore route in just a little bit.
Yo, I always hit the track with undeniable style. While digging ditches for bitches, I'm causing miles of smiles. Building bridges to riches while spitting venom and bile. Not stacking piles of papers, but yo, I think I will in a while. The world will wake up to this modern kind of style. I bring a portion of the proper accolades, and fortune will be smiling upon what I do and the things that I say. A renaissance of thought leading us all to brighter days. So I don't believe that you're as stupid as what they tell me, and I do believe that we're beyond the mediocrity monopoly of our conformity of the way we're taught. For despondency, dishonesty, the cacophonous bureaucracy. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, so when my time is done, I can say I had some fun. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, so when my time is done, I can say I had some fun. Man, sometimes it's just so hard to be a good person, to lift yourself up and try and be that better version of all the potential people you got living in your mind. It takes more than happy chance and circumstance. You gotta decide that you're gonna keep your head up, treat people how you wanna be treated, hold doors and be polite, try not to be conceited. But sometimes, kinda sorta all the times, it seems it's true. It's harder than anything else to observe that golden rule, especially when everybody you meet seems like a freaking tool, and it seems like everyone's got a whole lot of chlorine in their gene pool. Sometimes I get angry, I tell everyone to bite me, especially on days when the universe is trying to spite me. I think to myself, I'm better than that. Think to myself, I'm better than that. Think to myself, I'm better than that. Better than that, better than that. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, so when my time is done, I can say I had some fun. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, so when my time is done, I can say I had some fun. Think for yourself, you're better than that. Think for yourself, you're better than that. Think for yourself, you're better than that. Better than that. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your music a savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your music a savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Hey, you, what's that sound? I'm coming so loud from your radio dial. AD, be getting down when you're rocking the jams. Here I am, going back once again. I'm ruling all city like the king I am.
So I don't know if you saw it or not, but Caitlyn Jenner broke a record yesterday. Where did it go? Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, tweeted out another Jenner world record, and at 65, who'd have thought? 1 million followers in 4 hours. Like fastest Twitter growth, outpacing Obama. The reason we were discussing, oh man, this music just puts me in the right frame of mind to be able to wax poetic on this show. The reason we were discussing the work of Wendy Carlos, formerly Walter Carlos, Grammy Award-winning classical musician, keyboard player who was famous for combining the Moog synthesizer with classical music before anybody really knew what the Moog synthesizer was. Here we go. The work of Wendy Carlos, formerly Walter Carlos. The reason I bring this up is because, well, look, there is tremendous value in what Caitlyn Jenner has done. When Caitlyn Jenner went from being Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn Jenner, she, and for a while he, was shining a light on the experience of someone who transitions from male to female. And this is a far too often, I'm not even going to say misunderstood thing. People just don't understand it. They do not understand it. Why? Well, statistically speaking, there's not too many folks out there. There's not too many folks out there with gender dysphoria, I think is the proper terminology from it, where you feel as though you're in the wrong sex body. Wendy Carlos, when she did talk about her gender transition, which was rarely, said, I was about 5 or 6. I remember being convinced I was a little girl, much preferred long hair and girls' clothes, and not knowing why my parents didn't see it clearly. It's how you feel. Now, this is an incredibly uncommon thing. People that bang on about how any lack of understanding toward this particular situation, people who bang on about it being wildly politically incorrect and you're shaming and all of the above, no, people just don't understand. And the reason people don't understand is because it doesn't happen very often. It's a tiny minority of the population that feels this way. And because people don't understand, people can be cruel about it. There's nothing wrong with not understanding, though. You just kind of have to treat other humans with an open heart and an open mind. And we'll all get through this existence a lot easier. But it is an interesting one because there is this expectation by people that love to jump on any kind of cause and rage on about it and be like, how could you do this? I'm offended, sir. That word that you just used is a slur. Well, it only became a slur last week. The world was walking around saying transsexual for a very long time before they realized that, hey, maybe that's not really the best representation of people with this particular situation in their life. Transsexual became a slur almost overnight. You can't say the word tranny anymore because it's a huge insult. And that's all well and good, and that's fine. But it's not something people should be expected to know overnight about this small minority of the population. Now, look, the value in the Caitlyn Jenner situation is this. The value in the Caitlyn Jenner situation is this. And in case you missed it, freaking allergies. The value in the Caitlyn Jenner situation is this. Henceforth, there is no Bruce. He will now be referred to as she. Vanity Fair introduced the world to Caitlyn Jenner yesterday. When they released their cover photo of her, a lot of people are comparing her to Jessica Lange. Jessica Lange's response to that was, that's so wonderful. When you see the cover photo, by the way, you'll notice that Caitlyn posed for the cover in a satin corset. According to the folks over at TMZ, her cup size is a tasteful but still succulent 38B. Caitlyn had facial feminization surgery, but still has her man parts south of the equator. No word if or when the snipping and burrowing will commence. Radar Online claims that he has had the surgery since he gave the interview. And by the way, he went Caitlyn with a C, not with a K, to avoid any association with the Kardashians. And she said, Caitlyn said, doing the Vanity Fair photo shoot was even better than winning the Olympic gold because, quote, the shoot was about my life and who I am as a person. Yeah. So, let's remain clear on this. The value of this situation is that it shines a light on a very misunderstood situation where people say and do things that can be offensive or hurtful without necessarily realizing it because they're not sensitive to the experience of someone who feels as though they're